Well, baby, we did it.
So you can tell everybody.
That's right, folks. We started this channel. We wanted to rise in RTA, and we finally hit our first goal of C1. We spent a lot of time in fighter rank thinking we could just rise easily. And there were some ups, there were definitely some downs, but now we've finally scratched C1. What I'd like to do in this video is talk a little bit about my journey to C1 and what RTA and Summoner's War means for people who are just starting out in their low RTA rank journey. First things first, I want to show you the game that finally led to us winning and getting to C1, because I actually think I played the game quite well, and that certainly would not have been possible without you and the knowledge that you have given me over the course of this series. And I just have to say thank you. You guys are incredible. Your knowledge of this game is incredible. And yeah, it's just awesome. So check out this game, and then we'll talk a little bit about what I've learned, what you could learn, and some takeaways from my journey to C1. We are 11 points away from C1. Oh God. Okay. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say a word. We're just going to play the way we've been playing. Is this the same guy? Is this the same guy? Oh my God. Did we get lucky with the same guy? No. No. Okay. I'm going to read chat in a moment. Give me just 1 second, okay? Is this the same guy, though, that I just played? Oh my God. Wait, we've prepared for this. We've prepared for this. We've prepared for this. What is my biggest threat here? If I had to guess, Hey Gang. I think I just banned the Hey Gang. Okay, you know what? I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. Probably could have gotten rid of Shizuka too, but we just need to control Shizuka. So, first things first. We push up and we strip. Second thing, we stun and we oblivion. He resisted both. Okay. That's 2 turn, right? Has to use it. Can't proc out of it. Can't use it. Okay. This might hurt on water, but I got a defense and an HP monster, so no way he kills this, right? Okay. Probably a solid play. I'm going to heal up, and I'm going to go for stun. I am going to go for defense break here just to do some more damage. And I really need this attack bar pushback. Okay, still. Oh, okay. Let's go for big stun. If I get Gojo's skill 3 back, I think it's GG's. Pushback, pushback, pushback. Okay. Oh my God, please God, give me a violent proc here. Yeah. Yeah. Read it, read that, read it, read it, read it, read it. So as you could see from that game, I think I drafted and picked very well. And yes, I got lucky with a couple of violent procs, but I mean, that is the way RNG goes. And I think ultimately when I started this journey, right, for example, I was scared of Fire Monkey King, but then I learned that I had a unit that sort of countered some of his shenanigans and ultimately led to us climbing to C1. So I want to talk about some takeaways that I feel like I've taken from my journey to C1. And if you're starting out in your RTA journey, or maybe you're just a low rank player who's struggling, maybe you can learn something from this. When I started this series, right, I've had this channel for a long time. I've tried a ton of different things, but luckily I got some traction with Summoner's War. So I thought, you know what? I want to try this. I want to try and get better at a game. And ultimately, I started the series with the goal of hitting P1, which I realized looking back was kind of insane. All I wanted to do was get to a rank that gave me a transmog, and I quickly realized how hard that was going to be. Summoner's War has been around for a long time, and I've talked about this in other videos, but the discrepancy when the game first started out between the best player and the worst player was probably pretty small. You just needed a better understanding, a quicker understanding of the game to rise up. The game has been around for 10 years, so obviously there's a lot of players who have sort of mastered this journey, or at least have gotten quite better at this journey. I mean, you look at some of the best players out there, Sean B, Sage, I don't know how to pronounce his name. You see that even they spend their time in G1 and they constantly try to rise to G2, but they fall 100 points in one session. And that's just the nature of the game. I very quickly learned that. So really the first thing I learned is set realistic goals, right? If you have an expansive monster box, narrow it down so that you can focus on building maybe 6 or 7 units that really are going to help you build a core team and also build some counter picks. Speaking of core team, I very quickly learned core team synergy is very important, and it may seem obvious, but having a team that can build off one another is so important. When I first started RTA way back, when I first downloaded the app, I thought I could go into PvP and just pick the units that I liked. Now, I wish that was a case because meta is such an annoying thing to deal with, but it's important to have units that build off one another. So I used, when I got them, the Water Twin Angels for the speed lead and their kit. They offer a lot of utility like attack bar pushback, attack bar boost, shield, cooldown. They're a great unit, so I felt the need to include them in my core. Then I have, very luckily, a very good LD unit in Laura, whose kit offers, strip, stun, possible sleep on skill 1, and is an HP monster, so she's pretty tanky given the right runes and artifacts. Then I tried out units like Vanessa for the revive and the 33 speed lead, and then Tableau for the speed lead and the reset. Regardless, finding your core team, your 3 units that really build off one another, is actually important. Having follow-up units that sort of counter another core is also very important. And like I said, if you have an expansive monster box, it's probably a good idea to shrink it down and focus on maybe 6 or 7 units. Because let's be honest, if you're at this low rank, you don't have the runes for 25 monsters. So it's better to just focus on 6 or 7, grind them up, and see what you can do with that. Speaking of meta, another thing I've learned is meta is important, but at lower ranks, it comes less into play. I feel like when people watch SWC, they sit there and they realize, that in the last SWC, Chandra Veladril Cigar was the meta. And if you didn't have it, you weren't going to do well. This goes for gaming in general, but remember that the meta is dictated by the highest players. It's also dictated by what monsters kits have, like nerfing Cigar or buffing a certain unit. But remember that at the highest level, meta is really important. At low levels, I just don't think you have the runes nor the quality of monsters, or I should say you don't have the monsters nor the quality of runes to really take place in the meta. Meta is for people who grind day in, day out, and have to wiggle through that meta to learn how to build it and counter it. At the lower ranks, meta is less applicable. And that's specifically true in a turn-based game like Summoner's War. In a game like, Fortnite, using the meta of certain items and guns is applicable to everyone because there are just some guns that are better. That's also true for Summoner's War. There are some units that are really good, but there are a lot of units that don't get talked about that provide a lot of utility. I think Solverk is a good example. I had them for a while and I never used them until someone in Discord helped me build them. Shout out Wally. And I was able to bring him into my final games and actually counter the monkey business. So meta is important, but it's not everything. Another thing I learned is that light and dark units, they can certainly change the game, but you don't have to be scared of them. I feel like in lower ranks, when somebody flashes a lot of LDs, you certainly think that you are cooked in a match, but I've actually learned that someone pulling all LDs is probably just a scare tactic, or they're not runed properly or well enough to be that much of a threat. And I feel like when you watch higher rank play, most of it is elemental families. Now, that's because LDs are rare, but even the top players aren't bringing in a full team of LDs. So if you go up against someone who flashes these, don't be necessarily afraid of them, because odds are that LD requires a very high rune requirement, so it shouldn't be that much of a threat. The next thing I learned actually comes from strategy, and that strategy is thinking about what your opponent might pick. I say that, but I want to throw out the caveat that figuring out what your opponent might pick comes with time. When I first started out, it was very obvious I did not know what certain LDs did or what certain comps look like. But then slowly I started to realize that monsters are picked together. When someone picked, Vanessa and Adriana, they were probably going to pick a Sonya or to go for some sort of snipe comp. So you then learn, hey, if they're going to do that, I'm going to steal a unit, or I'm going to bring a Nana or something like that. Thinking about what your opponent is going to pick comes with time. And I don't want you to get frustrated over the fact that you are sitting there seeing the same units over and over again and wondering why you can't beat them. They're picked together for a reason, and you will learn that slowly but surely. Some of the smaller stuff I've learned in this is set realistic goals. Like I said in the beginning of the video, you have to have real goals in mind. I thought P1 was attainable in a season, and I very quickly realized that there's too many people who play this game who know what they're doing to get to that point. So set realistic goals, if that's just winning a few matches a day in a row, or completing all of your wings, or touching C1, whatever it is, just, kind of think about what that looks like for you. Another thing is the farming grind is real. You really should be farming quite constantly, and that kind of stinks for people who don't have the wherewithal to play and grind this game constantly. Luckily I work a remote job, and I can have Summoners War running in the background constantly while I'm doing work. But if you are interested in PvP, runes and grinds are very important, which also leads to a follow-up point. Optimize your teams. I was very comfortable with running like a 2-minute Giants team, and then I realized, 2 minutes a run for 30 runs is an hour long. That's a long time to finish a dungeon, especially in Summoner's War speak. So I sat with people in the Discord, I optimized my Giants team, and now it runs about 35 to 40 seconds. That cuts the time down drastically for your runs. You're able to get more runs, and you're able to use more energy, leading to, event rewards. Okay, the penultimate thing I learned, and this is something I seriously need to start taking seriously, don't spend money on this game. This game is a gotcha game for a reason. I have spent, my God, I don't even know how much money across multiple accounts. Now, I'm not Killian Bow territory, or I'm not True Whale territory, but just, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. They don't give us enough for the value. I mean, the fact that they sit there and they offered a pack that you needed to buy in order, which ultimately added up to like $130 is ridiculous. No game should be charging that amount of money for that little. And I get it. Like, people are like, well, it makes it better when no, just don't spend money on this game. It's not worth it. It's not worth it, seriously. Again, I need to learn that, because I feel like, I sit here and I stream and I make content. I need to spend money on this game so that I keep things refreshing, but I should not be dipping into my own pockets to pull, 40 Mystic Scrolls with no lightning. Don't do it. Which brings us to our last point. Finally, this game, it's a game, okay? It's very easy to get frustrated, especially if you're like me and you're very competitive in nature. This game is about fun, and you are supposed to learn. If you were going to be the best on day one, you would have been there. But that is not the case for most people, and I would say 99% of people in the things they do. Unless you have raw natural talent for Summoner's War, which guess what? You don't. Just have fun. I'm trying to take it a little less seriously because I know that I get frustrated when I lose, but that's something that is just a part of the game. I mean, I touched C1 and then I lost 100 elo in the rest of the session. It's just going to happen. But if you can start to pinpoint those little progress points, right? Like every day I would finish RTA at a little bit higher rank and a little bit higher rank, and maybe I would fall down, but then I would go up a little more. That becomes your benchmark, right? My highest ever now, elo was 1303, which means I touched C1. That means I know I can get there. I can do it again. And the next is going to be C2 and C3 and so on and so forth. And you know what? It might take a little while, but think about all the knowledge that you gain playing this game. It compounds, right? And it exponentially grows. Now that I know how to build teams to some degree, I know when I get new units where they fit, or I know how to build them based on their kit. Things start to click and make sense. It's the same adage, practice makes perfect. So I hope that some of these tips make sense because I want you to not take this game so seriously and just realize that it's a game. You will get better if you dedicate the time to it. Those are my thoughts. Let me know if you have any opinions. Again, I just want to thank you all for being here while I sort of get better and you've contributed to the love of the channel. It's really awesome to see, and it feels really good to have it pay off by touching that first goal. I'm really excited to see what comes next. The next goal is C2, and I fully believe that we can get there, me plus your help. So thanks for everything. I'll catch you in the next one.